Good morning. Ambassador Gopinath, Chairman of the Institute of South Asian Studies, Professor Tan Tai Yong, Director, Institute of South Asian Studies, our distinguished panelists, members of the Indian Parliament, Mr. Kalikesh Singh Deo, Mr. Neeraj Shekhar, Mr. Jayant Chaudhary, Mr. Sushanta Borghain, Mr. Manika Tagore. On behalf of the Institute of South Asian Studies, I warmly welcome you to this morning's panel discussion titled Outlook for India, with young members of the Parliament of India. Our panelists represent 4 political parties in India. And without further ado, I invite Ambassador Gopinath Pillai to deliver his opening remarks and chair the panel discussion and question answers following.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming for this closed-door session with the young Indian parliamentarians. First, I want to welcome them. I think it is a great opportunity to interact with the younger members of the parliament. This is not the first time we have done this. We have done it once before. We've had a discussion with this Indian parliamentarian. I think Singapore government does some things right, and this is one of the things that they do right. They invite the young parliamentarians from India to come over for an interaction with our younger leaders as well as the old fellows. It has been always very useful, and today we have a very interesting group. I'm sorry that 2 of them have dropped out because they had to leave last night. One from the BJP and the other one from Nitish Kumar's party in Bihar. So I was wondering whether there's some significance to it, but that probably can be priced out of our present panel. And you are at liberty to. The format of today's discussion would be that I will give 5 minutes to each of them to talk a little bit on the outlook for India. And then we will open it to a free and frank discussion on what they've said or whatever you need to raise to them. I think all of you have got the little flyer, so you know the background. I don't think I need to go through that. But it's a very interesting group, and I'm very happy they're here. And so let me start with Mr. Dio for that end, and then I will go on that sequence and then we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Pillai. I think the first thing you notice about India when you talk of India is the burgeoning population. You know, we have a 1.2 billion population. We are expected to exceed China very soon. We have one of the youngest populations in the world, and it's many times it's talked of as being a demographic dividend, an asset. But there is a catch to that. If you don't educate them properly, if you don't train them properly, give them the right skill sets, give them the right opportunities to convert their skills into income, that will be a liability. So in my view, that's one of the biggest challenges that we face in our economic system. How do we actually get the benefits of our privatization process to the grassroots of India? If you look at the grassroots of India today, there is a disconnect in many ways with the way the economy is opened up and the effects of that reaching the grassroots. We still remain a welfare state. We still have hues of a left-leaning socialistic system, even though we have considerably opened up our economies post-1992. That accounts for the large fiscal deficit that we see today in India. It's almost, I think, 4.5 or 5%. It remains one of the largest fiscal deficits amongst the developing economies in the world. I fear that, given that this is going to be an election year, this is not likely to change very soon. However, I think both the major political parties, the BJP and the Congress, and we have a Congress member here, of course, we don't have our BJP member left, as Ambassador was saying. Both these political parties have made up their minds to work on a open economy, free trade system, and you may have leanings left or right of that path, but they will continue, the country will continue to work towards a more open economy. I think one of the biggest challenges that we will face in our growth towards an open economy, growth towards globalization, is the issue of corruption, which has come up many times in India. Now, corruption is an issue in India. Corruption is also an issue in any and every country in the world. India has taken a two-pronged approach to try and tackle corruption. Transactional corruption can and is being tackled by technology. So when you go to get your driver's license, when you go to get your passport, it's become computerized now, you get it very quickly. There are no gray areas there. In recent times, you've heard of a lot of conversation on policy level corruption. You've seen an activist media in India, you've seen an activist court in India, you've seen quick justice being meted out. I think this will go, along with the increased awareness of the public and the voters, this will go a long way in tackling corruption. Thank you.
Shekhar?
Ambassador, as our colleague was saying, Kalkesh, the outlook for India, if you ask any politician or member of parliament, he will always say that outlook is very good. But what is the actual picture is the question. From what I see in India, the outlook is not very good but good. If somebody wants to invest in India, the opportunities are good. There are some problems of corruption, delay in implementing our policies. There is delay in somebody goes from outside. The biggest problem is what we have learned here or anywhere we go there out of India. People say when we go to invest there, it takes a lot of time. That's our problem. So we are working on that. And there are different states in India, as you know. Different states work individually. So in different states, you have different policies, and they can, if you go to, say, as Uttar Pradesh, the policies there will be different. And with the new government there, you can work faster. What I feel that anybody from Singapore or anywhere else in the world, if you want to invest or look, there is a new government, people want to go there, people are investing. What there was a few years back, things have changed. Not only in Uttar Pradesh, but different states. So as far as we politicians, we always go out and tell people that it's the right, but there are few institutions which say otherwise. Like IMF is saying that it's not a good time to invest in India. But as far as we see, things will improve, and they are improving. Our finance minister has said that he will bring down the deficit. He has done it in the last year, and I think he will do. He's a good finance minister, and he will do the needful. So as far as I am concerned, it's the right time to invest in India, and I will request everybody from Singapore or all over the world to come to India and invest, and you will see that things will change, and they are changing. As he said that we have a independent judiciary, the media is very independent, and these things are leading to people fighting against corruption and other things. So as far as I'm concerned, and people, they think that it's the right time for people to invest in India. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've come to Singapore after more than 10 years. And one of the things that stand out is the use of the resources. The way you tackled, Singapore has tackled the resource problem. And then you look at India, old civilization, scale of our problems is huge, magnitude is huge. But at the same time, we have a huge asset base. And then you look at how we have done. we've seen in the last 2 decades, things have changed a lot. But primarily, those states in our country which were rich in resources, natural resources, yes, they might have grown on the back of utilizing them, but there are questions of balance. There are questions that our strong court system throws up regularly, that our green activists throw up regularly. There are questions that politicians raise regularly about equality and growth and the need for a balance. And you know, all this then feeds into the political discourse, which is largely, like Kalikesh said, shaped around ideas of being a welfare state, big state, providing, you know, all the amenities to the people, instead of an argument where you're telling people that we have empowered you and now it's time for you to step up. So we have a middle class, it's growing, it is getting increasingly politically assertive, it is suddenly realizing that we have a voice, and that's because of the role of the media, and that's because they are growing in numbers and they have a right to assert themselves. But in my mind, to my mind, now the question that will arise out of this will be, what is the future? Will we change the way we look at our resources? Will we start pricing resources that the markets decide, the way Singapore is completely open up? Or will we just tell people the larger issues? I've been thinking whether our political discourse revolves around economic issues at all. Because if you read the abstract about outlook of India, I mean, there are issues about fiscal deficit, current account deficit, but these are not issues that voters look at. So we say Garibi Hatao, and then, you know, inflation is an issue, but no one really has answers on how to tackle it. So to my mind, how politics will change, we have elections coming around, will we look at minute issues or not, is a question mark. I don't think I need to sell India here. My colleagues are doing a good job.
Thank you. Yes, Krishna.
Good morning, Ambassador Pillai, my esteemed colleagues and friends. As most of our sitting over here is India, and I come from the northeast part of India, that is well connected with the Southeast Asia rather than the. And my colleague has said about the concern about India, and I'd rather say that our strength is India, our strength is the democracy, because we are from that country where democracy exists. And irrespective of all the small political parties or all the political parties, our foreign policy is very strong foreign policy we are having, and we are progressing in that foreign policy, and with that policies we are having relations with the countries around India. And our problem is now we are facing that post 70s we are having another country, and after 70s, I mean 80s, then open up of economy, then the younger generation of India is taking part in political as well as in economic policies as well as in other business systems, and we are progressing in the right directions. But the thing is that we have a class-based system in India, which is quite a problem for all the political parties, for the social concerns and all. Because one part of India is different from other part of India. Even in the state-wise also we have got different issues. Social engineering system is different, caste-based system is different, and the acceptability of the leadership also different. Unlike in Singapore, because we have traveled and we have met many people, but we haven't met any opposition leaders here. That quite concerned me, because in our place, if you go there, you can meet, like we all are sitting here from different political parties. But here we have seen only one political party. And it's quite concerned. And I think that in that context, China may be resembled to Singapore to some extent. I don't know exactly what, it's in my mind, just I'm expressing that thing. So, seeing India as a greater platform for new economic platform, and it can be a powerhouse, because our younger generations, who is comprised of around 70% or 80%, who is working tirelessly now to transform India. Yeah, we are seeing the India, the best future in future, I suppose. But the thing is that we are also having a very special look-east policy, which will help to connect the Southeast Indian country to the Northeast with there may be a business perspective, there is a friendship perspective, maybe a good diplomatic perspective, and we are having these kind of policies in other sectors. So I'll thanks the organizers to give me opportunity to speak a few words before it. Thank you very much.
Yes, Mr. Mike.
Thank you. Many of the things which I have noted, my friends has flagged their issues. First, I see that India is the only country where 1 billion are elected by people. There's 1 million are elected by people. We have an elected office bearers from the panchayat level to the parliament, numbering around 1 million elected office bearers. No other country has this kind of setup. 71st and 72nd amendments has brought change in bigger way, and the decisions are being not taken in Delhi only. States are being taking major decisions. Now the time has come that the states has to, from Delhi, more powers has to be given to the states, as well as the states has to give more powers to the cities and the districts where the decision has to be taken more. That will be the challenge for the next 10 years, because the young population wants a change, wants to be part of a decision-making process. And the structure is being created, but not the real power has been connected. That's going to be the major challenge for the next 10 years. With that thing, previous 10 years has brought in India landmark legislations on right to information, right to work, there's going to be right to food, bill is going to be there. These rights to information has created a new kind of working in India, and which has resulted in many kind of scandals or corruptions in the media as well as this thing, because of the right to information. And with that thing, India, next 10 years will be very critical for India's development, as democracy as well as information and other things will have a greater opportunity for India. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Normally, as moderator, I seldom ask questions. I leave it to the floor to ask the questions. But one of the things, I've been an investor in India for the last 20 years. And one of the things that impressed me most about India is its young people. They have really very good talent among the young people. Sometimes they are not allowed to use it. Sometimes they are not allowed to show it. But the talent is there. So I actually want to challenge this very brilliant young group here with 3 points. And after that, they may decide it's not a good place. But I just thought I would start the ball rolling. 3 points are: one, recently I think there was a book written by Amartya Sen and a Belgian gentleman. If I remember, the title is, what is it? Uncertain Glory, Contradictions in India. That's the title. And the main thesis of that book is that India does not do enough to elevate poverty. There's, investors, forums and all sorts of things being done to attract foreign investment. But this hardcore of below the poverty line people, the movement has been slow from that below the poverty line to above poverty line. And you go back in history, for 4,000 years, you've had a group of people, maybe about 30% of the population, kept below, in a state of abject poverty, kept below the poverty. And everything that has been done seems to have not affected this. That 30% may have come down to 22%, 25%, but that's about all. So while we talk about the great progress, why is that this very hardcore group of below the poverty line not being elevated. That's my first point. The second point, Sushant mentioned democracy. I totally agree with you that there can be no other form of government for a diversified country like India. So it's the best form of government for India, a democratic system. But its practice, I question in India. If you go to the parliament, I mean, if the members of this very, the body of all the elected representatives decide that they will stand in the well of the house and stop any legislation from going through, stop any voting from going through, by just the noise level, is that democracy? You can elect, that's fine. You can have free democracy. You can bring your opposition members to meet everybody. That's fine. But your country is being ruled by your legislators, and if they cannot legislate because of the noise level, is your practice of democracy the best way forward? Number three, again, Sushant mentioned the foreign policy of India. I think India is a very sensible foreign policy. I remember after India got its independence, India was considered the conscience keeper of the world. Everybody listened to Pandit. And if you go back a few thousand years, India was the knowledge provider to the world. In the Tibetan language, I'm told that the word for Indian is man of knowledge. That much of respect was given because people, monks and scholars used to come from all over the world to study in India. Now Indians go out to study. So the foreign policy, has it helped to enhance the image of a country with 1.2 billion people and probably will become the largest country? Has it done that? And if it's not, why not? So the 3 points that I have, maybe each one of you can comment. I'm sorry, I'm taking up your time. One is the elevation of poverty. Second is the practice of democracy. Third is the effectiveness of the foreign policy. I'll leave it. You want to start?
Sure. All three, one of them. Should we answer all three, one of them?
Up to you, up to you. It's free cut. Within limits.
Let me start with the democracy thing, and Neeraj will speak elaborately on it because he's had experience in that field. But yes, there is a plurality in parliament. Yes, it's not attuned to what you see in Singapore or in some other countries. As Sushant was saying, you don't have an opposition, so you can't see any opposition.
Don't take
abroad.
any other country. Don't waste your time.
If I take the diet in Japan, I think they're a lot better. We don't throw shoes in bicycle. Taiwan. But notwithstanding that, look, we demonstrate our opposition on the floor of the House. We do it in the well, but we do not do it outside in the streets. We do not crush opposition on the streets. We will not crush a voice, whether it's right or wrong, outside the parliament. Though we may have our democratic procedures within the walls of the parliament may seem unruly to you, there is order in that chaos. It is done to bring a point out very effectively from the parliament, which mirrors the emotions of a lot of people outside. If you do not take care of those emotions, you will have them rising up on the streets, and you will have to use force in the streets. Two, there's a foreign policy here to enhance India's image. I think India has been basically an inward-looking country. And to a large extent, until very recently, our foreign policy was a mirror of our domestic requirements and needs. We've had huge challenges, we've spoken about them. The focus has always been on trying to solve those challenges and remain non-aligned from Nehru's vision. Does India do enough to alleviate poverty? We haven't had the success that China has had. We haven't managed to lift 300 million people out of poverty. That's for sure. We've had a different approach to addressing the issue of poverty in India. There are some of our systems, given the kind of background that we've had with 300 years of colonization with the British, with a very strong feudal system, and when we attained independence, the first instinct of the government at that time, rightly or wrongly, was to go towards socialism, was to enter into land ceiling acts, redistribution of land, redistribution of assets and income and wealth. So our agriculture sector has remained very ineffective and inefficient. And we have almost 65% of our population depending on agriculture. So in my view, that's been one of our biggest failings to address the issue of poverty. We have done a lot in terms of shifting some of that agriculture, the workers from the rural areas or villages or towns into the service sector. We've got a very good IT industry. We haven't had the success in manufacturing that China has had because we haven't managed to steamroll our way in creating huge infrastructure. I think these are the challenges we've had.
First of all, on the poverty issue, I don't know from where Mr. Amrita Sen or the Belgium writer got their facts. And Amrita Senji lived all his life in US and he's talking about India now. That's, I don't know how he got the things, and he's writing books on India. He comes once in a year, gives a talk and goes back to America and he's talking about India. People who live in India know how things have changed in the last 65 years. You go to our constituencies and see things. We are not saying we have changed like China, but we have changed. The poverty level has gone up, rather gone down. Poverty levels have gone down. And people are living better life than what they used to live in 20 years back or 25 years back. Things have been, schemes like which we don't agree, but things like Manrega, or the UPA flagship program, is for that only. We are providing work for people who don't have work. So we are trying. That we have a population of 1.2 billion, and it's very hard to keep the poverty levels down. But we are trying. Food. We are now have an ordinance, food security. So things are improving, and they will, because we are concerned that poverty level should be down, and we all are doing our best. Be it the state government or the central government, be it NDA or UPA, any government which comes, the priority for that government is to bring the poverty level down. The second thing about the democracy, going into the well. My party is blamed the most for this, the Samajwadi Party. So, but what other way? And by this only, look around us, our neighbors. We have remained democratic for last 65 years, and we are, I think, one of the best democratic countries in the world because of we have a free, and we give, as Kalikesh said, we don't crush our opposition. Opposition voices are heard, even if it's on the streets of Delhi or in the parliament. So there is no other way. If the ruling party is going ahead with some policies or some law which they want to make, if the opposition doesn't agree, what other way you have to show? Vote them out is you cannot do because we are in minority. That's why we are in opposition. but we think that policy is not for good for the country. What else you can do? So if you suggest me some idea, I will.
So shout them down.
No, shout them down. Then they understand that language.
Oh.
The ruling party understand that language, so we have to go by that. No, we are supporting the UPA from outside. Remember that.
Good.
I'll just two lines.
Yes.
On that.
No, take your time. Don't worry.
The poverty line of poverty, the baseline you have to think about that. Like poverty earlier was like people without having food.
Yes.
Now the poverty word has been elevated with two meals at least a day and a work. So the poverty, the question of the poverty you see in the Russia, those who are having a very luxurious life is now having on the break. And we are having the poverty without food elevated to the poverty with 2 meals. That's a success story of India.
Is it good? I'd just like to add on the parliament thing. See, it's all televised. And
So they are all stars.
No. And that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there is a lot of interest. And, if you go to the village and you are from that constituency and he sees you protesting in that manner, he may not be getting offended the way you and I, with other urban sensibilities, are getting offended. He's saying, yeah, thik, yeah, very good. So the thing is, that's the nature of politics,
Yes.
and I'd rather have it that way rather than have C-SPAN which no one watches. So there is, every moment we are being judged, and there is a lot of public interest around these issues. People are still emotional about their politics. I think that's the way it should be, and we are passionate people.
I know.
On poverty, one thing Kalki said which somehow I didn't agree with, the land redistribution thing. I think if you didn't have that and you had the big jagidars, huge land holdings, we just broken from a state where we had a number of princely states, no real national identity, and access to assets and resources was for a very, very small minority. And that depended on which family you were born. If you were a royal family, then you have that. So we needed to break that. You will not take offense to that. But where we have faltered is that we did not work towards building efficient land markets. And that is where the role of the state, everyone who comes in power wants more power to himself and abrogate more and more power and delegate less and less. So I think we need to work towards efficient land markets where there are even playing fields, make it investor friendly, and people with small land holdings, if they are seeing that agriculture is not for them, give them the freedom to sell their land at a market rate and get out, and educate them. Create sort of facilities at the village level that are required for that sort of investment to come in. That's, I think, that's a challenge for us for the future.
Monica, you want to add anything?
Only many things my friends has covered. One thing is that about the foreign policy you told about, that India was one time a knowledge country but for the past 65 years when we see, our main problem is economy and how to feed people. For 65 years we are on that job only, searching to give food to our people. And that's the problem, and if we are able to reach that with any kind of socialist or capitalist, whatever theories, both the theories have been tested in India now. If we are able to feed that thing correctly, first if we are able to achieve that before the quarter of this century, automatically India will become a country where it can lead on other issues, because the world is been led by those powerful, we define those powerful nations with only those who are having money. And the military is secondary, and we are on that path, and I think that this quarter will be able to achieve it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very glad to see the robust response to my rather provocative opening. I'm very glad. I agree with some of the things I said. I don't agree with some things, but now I open it to the House to ask questions.